Big surprise, there has been some new drama on X, and this time it's between 𝗏𝗏𝗡𝗏𝗏 and 𝗘𝗺. And I want to turn this into appreciation thread instead for 𝗏𝗏𝗡𝗏𝗏. It all started, I haven't really looked up how it started, but 𝗘𝗺 has been tweeting things like this. It's really hard for me to respect a dev if they never ship anything. He posted something like this. Before you guys ask, 𝗏𝗏𝗏 is an incredible game. 𝗏𝗏𝗡𝗏𝗏 is incredibly insecure and blocked me when I jokingly replied skill issue to his Windows bugs and rage-showed him. 𝗏𝗏𝗡𝗏𝗏 is a terrible developer. I don't know what has been going on between these guys. I haven't really looked up how it started. But Casey Muratori, he chimed in and wrote a long post, and I think it was quite good. And just if you don't know, 𝗏𝗏𝗡𝗏𝗏, he's a well-known developer. He has made 𝗏𝗏𝗏, The Witness, and now he has an upcoming game, Order of the Sinking Star, and he has also, for this new upcoming game, also made a new programming language, 𝗘𝗺, and also a game engine and a map editor, and the game. So he has been quite busy working on all these, like 4 different projects at the same time, while also like shipping 𝗏𝗏𝗏 for new platforms and doing other things. Casey Muratori, that's a friend to 𝗏𝗏𝗡𝗏𝗏. They've worked together in the past, and Casey Muratori, he has been like developing tools for game development, but he's also known for being quite active or present on YouTube and having had courses online. But what Casey wrote about 𝗏𝗏𝗡𝗏𝗏, I will read here. Well, there's 2 parts to what you're saying there, so I will split them out. The first part, quote, being awful to me and many of my friends, quote, sounds like an objection to John's behavior, which is not what most people would assume is meant by a terrible developer. A complaint about personality as it relates to being a developer should come from someone who actually worked with John developing something. Even then, most people wouldn't really know that's what someone meant if they just said someone was a terrible developer. I hope you would agree the sentence, he's a terrific guy but a terrible developer, would not sound odd to anyone, since the normal meaning of developer doesn't carry personality implications. What is basically saying that if you say somebody is a bad developer, it doesn't say anything about their personality. It's just like what their abilities and skills, what you're telling something about. So the only developer skill related assertion seems to be someone who hasn't shipped in a decade, which I'm not sure I follow as a criticism applied to John. I guess I would start by asking, how is shipping recency related to whether someone is a good developer? Should we be calling 𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏 a terrible developer now because he hasn't shipped a major code base since 𝗘𝗺 and 𝗦𝗶𝗴? How about Brian Kernighan? What has John Carmack shipped lately? So all terrible developers now, I guess? Is the idea that we just forget all of their past achievements like they never happened? I think that's a good point. You just don't like turn into a terrible developer just because it was a long time since you made development or something. Not that 𝗏𝗏𝗡𝗏𝗏 is not developing anymore, but if you just look about what you shipped and how recently it was, it's kind of bad metric, I think. And that's what Casey Muratori is also arguing. That said, if your goal is to ship things, how quickly you can ship them is not solely dependent on how good of a developer you are. It's also directly determined by what you're trying to ship. If primarily what you make are web frontends for other people's services, I would agree with you that not shipping in 10 years is a bad sign. Yeah, that's a good point. That there are things that are more difficult to develop and things that are usually more simple to develop. And we continue. On the other hand, if what you're making is a new language, new game engine, game editor, and a game, and you would like them all to be developed together so you can be sure you're considering design choices holistically, 10 years sounds pretty reasonable to me. In fact, I would argue that accomplishing such a feat at all is something almost no developer could do, let alone a terrible one. Off the top of my head, I can't think of anyone who has done that unless you include toy languages or simple games, but J is actually one of the more powerful languages of those I'm familiar with. And Order of the Sinking Star is roughly a AA game in terms of production value and engine capability. And I agree very much here. I think it's very impressive what 𝗏𝗏𝗡𝗏𝗏 has been developing. A whole new language, a new game, a game editor, and game engine, like all these things together. I think it's quite cool. Finally, John's not shipping is an arbitrary distinction, especially in this context. John actually ships constantly, just not to you. J has an active beta program that supports a large number of projects written in J, and they receive regular updates to the tool chain. Those projects do themselves publish to the wider world. 𝗖𝗢𝗡𝗏, for example, was published 3 years ago now. I think this is also a good point. Like J is in active development, and he has his beta group of people who are testing it and using it for things, and he regularly updates in the language and give new releases there to those beta testers. So it's not like it hasn't been released, it's just released to a smaller group of people. In a world where people only released beautifully finished compilers with languages set in stone, then maybe I could entertain an argument that shipping beta versions of a language didn't count as shipping. But the reality is that most modern languages are in a state of perpetual beta and shows no signs of ever being shipped in any final form anyway. There is no code quality difference between a J beta release and, say, the latest release of Python, other than John didn't decide to put it on an open GitHub. If anything, J beta releases probably break less existing code than Python releases do. Smiley face. Just telling the same thing here, that yeah, it's being shipped to the beta group of people, and it happens regularly. And comparing it with other programming languages that are updated all the time, many languages have yearly updates where they continue to evolve the languages. So how does it make it any different? So honestly, I really think you're off base here. If you want to say you don't like John, go right ahead. Everyone has their own types of people they get along with, and the list of people I don't like on X is so long I've probably forgotten who half of them even are at this point. But terrible developer, it's simply not a credible statement about John. And I agree. I think John is very inspiring. There are a lot of videos on YouTube with him, a lot of interviews. I think it's very fun to listen to those interviews. Regardless of how like this argument started, I think it was a great post, this acknowledging everything that John has achieved, and I think there are a lot of people who are looking up to him and want to achieve the same things as him. I think it's very inspiring what one guy can achieve to develop all these things, and I think he seems very smart, and I think he's an inspiration for many people. But that was it for today, and I hope you have a great day. Bye bye!